Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is Two-Way Tonight. My name is Mark Halperin, and I'm here to spend an hour with you doing some enjoyable things. First, we'll run through the day's news with two fantastic guests, Alex Castellanos and Steve Elmendorf, fan favorites here on the Two-Way platform. One Republican, one Democrat, both of whom so imbued with the presumption of grace for all and the spirit of peace, love, and understanding that they practically could be in advertisements for this channel. And a little bit later, David Mamet, author of this new book, The Disenlightenment, Politics, Horror, and Entertainment, will be here. I got to tell you, folks, you often hear hosts of shows saying, buy this book, it's great. This book is phenomenal. And when David Mamet gets here, I'll tell you why I think so. But this book is phenomenal. If you love Donald Trump, you will love it. If you do not like Donald Trump, it will explain more than I ever have been able to, I think, or more than almost anything I've seen, why Donald Trump is popular and why he won. This is an incredible. This guy's got such an incredible body of work. This is amazing. This book, holding my hand up in front of his name. I'm eager to talk about the book with you and with him in just a moment. But first, our top stories tonight, as Garrett Morris would say, three main things we're going to talk about with Alex and Steve. One is Elon Musk spouted off against the reconciliation bill today. I'm not really sure why this is being treated like such a big deal. He'd previously spouted off against it. I don't think it's going to impact whether it passes or not. And uh, who cares what one guy thinks? Richest man in the world. But we'll talk about that. Lots of reaction to that. Then more fallout from the massacre in Boulder, Colorado, including the family of the alleged attacker was arrested today. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then lastly, there's some stuff related to Gaza and some reporting that has been called into question and pulled back in some cases. And we'll talk about that. Maybe a few more odds and ends. But that's the plan. If you're here and you want to get in the conversation and get a chance to ask the great David Mamet a question or the great Alex Castellanos or Steve Elmendorf, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube, do not raise your hand. But also, no smack in the chat. Feel very strongly about no smack in the chat. And although I don't read the chat, I was told by a colleague today there's an enormous amount of smack going in the chat lately. In fact, a little bit of an uptick of smack in the chat. It should be on the downward trend. So please do not put smack in the chat. And with that, let me bring in our two estimable guests, Alex Castellanos of the United States of America and Steve Elmendorf, similarly of the United States of America. I will unmute you both. Gentlemen, you're similarly dressed, it appears, which is good for, oops, got to unmute Steve
No,
again. There you go. Welcome in, gentlemen. How's everything going with you? Steve, you first, just to give us a general update on your well-being.
I'm doing great. World is good.
Okay, good. Alex.
One cigar at a time, life is good. I have no complaints.
All right, good to hear. And again, always grateful to you both for being here. You class up the joint. Are either of you a fan of David Mamet? Alex, yes.
Sure.
Steve, yes.
I haven't read any. I have not read his new book or recent stuff, but I've seen his plays and Glengarry Glen Ross. Very good.
Yeah.
I make everyone who comes to work at Purple and clients read The Three Uses of the Knife.
That's right. Of course, you've talked about that before.
Talked about that on here, and he introduced me to the book Instincts of the Herd in Peace and War, which explains why a young American will jump on a grenade to save his buddies, even when it's against the prime directive of survival, because it's to preserve the herd, the tribe. And I read everything. He's right. Fantastic.
Do me a favor when he gets here, try to have a little dignity.
No,
don't slobber
right over him.
All right. Let's do some news. And again, David Mamet will be here in just a bit, and we'll talk about his book. And Alex, you'll see Alex slobber, cigar-infused slobber, and really, with the exception of German Shepherd slobber, it's really the worst slobber. Alex, I could show 7 elements about this Musk thing. Do you agree with me that people are just going overboard? It doesn't really matter if Elon Musk opposes the bill?
It doesn't matter if he opposes the bill, but remember, he was part of the redefinition of the Trump coalition. He brought something Trump did not have, the future, tech. bros. And just a sense it's something new. And I hope he ain't leaving. Also, Republicans had one contributor for a long time, Sheldon Adelson, but then our contributor died. And then we got a new one, Elon Musk. And I hope he doesn't go away. We'd be back to zero contributors again.
Well, you have a few others, just not people who write $100 million checks necessarily.
Yeah.
Steve, does this Musk's opposition, muscular opposition to the reconciliation bill matter?
Yeah, of course it matters, Mark. I think, look, everybody spends a lot of time talking about how Democrats are in disarray. I would say the storyline of the last days and weeks has been Republicans are in disarray. He's one of the president's chief supporters. The big, beautiful bill is one of the president's chief goals. And he didn't just say he was against it. He spoke in rather specific language, rather aggressive language. And it's something else to other people like Senator Paul, Ron Johnson. He's echoing many of their comments. And the reality is that there's a significant part of the Republican Party that thinks that this bill is going to significantly increase the debt.
It won't.
He gave voice to that in a very aggressive way. And, is it going to stop the bill? Probably not. But again, I don't think it's helpful to passing the bill.
I agree with Steve. It won't matter for Trump, though, because at the end of the day, the Trump coalition, including conservatives, just is rock solid, and this won't dent it. Republicans, conservatives who are anti-spending are more than willing to compromise their principles here, and they will. But it is a fissure, Steve. I think you're right, that down the road is not going to get smaller, and especially, I would say, post-Trump, but not right now.
Okay, fair enough. Let's look at some elements related to this story that Steve assures us is very important. Number 3, this is the Musk tweet or X posting that set everything off. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. I've heard Steve say that exact thing, but in a different context. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. I've heard Steve use that phrase too. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. So that tweet set off a firestorm. Here's number 2, the Politico headline, one of 1,000 headlines. Musk's latest mega bill bombshell exasperates GOP lawmakers. I like Elon, said Kevin Kramer, but he's one man. Here is Mark Caputo, our friend Mark Caputo is reporting, and it points out cleverly, Mark's a clever reporter, he doesn't assert causality. He just says Musk's decision to trash Trump's legacy legislation came after failing to win favorable treatment in 4 instances. So again, Mark doesn't say cause and effect. He just does chronology. After 1, EV tax credit for Tesla was nixed or scaled back. Extended White House employment status scaled back. He's gone. Starlink being used widely by FAA. No. And his pal, who is slated to be head of NASA, didn't get the job. I happen to believe that Mark's list is very good, but it's incomplete. There are other things that Musk didn't get, including his choice for Treasury Secretary, just to give one early example. So Musk regularly didn't get his way. I think it'd be awfully petulant to be given such a powerful position and then trash the bill because he doesn't like it. But of course, what Republicans are saying is, poor Elon doesn't understand the bill. The smartest person on the planet has been hoodwinked by the likes of Steve Elmendorf into believing the bill's no good. Here's the head of the OMB, Russ Vought, reacting to Elon. Number 5, please.
What's your reaction to the X message by Elon Musk?
We think the bill is a very good one. We think it's very strong fiscally. Nothing's changed from our view of the world. We understand where he's coming from, but if you have an accurate baseline that treats taxes the same way it treats spending, this budget is $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings. It's the most historic amount of mandatory reforms that this town has ever seen. And certainly we haven't seen anything like it since the mid-1990s with welfare reform. And it's a $1.4 trillion improvement to deficits and debt. So, look, I don't think there's any way that you could possibly suggest that this is not a fiscally responsible bill.
Unless you're the smartest man in the world, in which case you can, and richest. Okay, Here, similarly, is Speaker Johnson, who's buddies with Elon Musk. They text regularly. And as he did over the weekend, when asked about earlier Musk comments denigrating the reconciliation package, the speaker said, I wish my poor friend Elon could understand. Roll that, please.
Let me say this. It's very disappointing. Okay, I've come to consider Elon a good friend. He's obviously a very intelligent person, and he's done a lot of great work. With all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about the one big beautiful bill.
So again, at a minimum, it's ruining the news cycle. I think that's fair to say for the Republicans as they try to round up the votes. Number one element, please. President Trump is indeed, as he did yesterday, working hard to pressure Republicans who are not enthusiastic about the bill. And as it says here, the measure's opponents have a powerful new ally in Elon Musk. The president, I think, is pretty much given up on the senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, but there are a handful of others who he's working over. Now, needless to say, Steve Elmendorf is not the only Democrat delighted by having Musk be part of the anti-reconciliation coalition. Here is Hakeem Jeffries, number 6.
This one big ugly bill, the GOP tax scam, hurts everyday Americans and rewards their billionaire donors with a massive tax break for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. And to make matters worse, they will saddle our children and grandchildren with more than $5 trillion in additional debt in order to subsidize the lifestyles of the rich and shameless. Elon Musk and I agree with each other on this particular issue. The GOP tax scam is a disgusting abomination.
All right, and here's Amy Klobuchar, another member of the Musk-Elmendorf Jeffries coalition, senator from Minnesota, also celebrating the Musk language. This is number 7.
Very clear, this is not a big, beautiful bill. It's a big, beautiful betrayal of the middle class and working people in this country. It's a betrayal of seniors in nursing homes, where half of those in assisted living rely on Medicaid. It's a betrayal of families struggling to put food on the table, and it's a betrayal of the middle class.
So there used to be a school of thought in Republican politics. Don't give Colin Powell a job because you can't fire him because he's too popular. So he could do whatever he wanted. So it seems to me the president now has a real problem with Elon Musk. He's elevated him, first buddy, prime minister, whatever you want to call him. Now he's outside the tent. Even inside the tent, he occasionally criticized the administration policies. But Steve, if you were Donald Trump's White House chief of staff and the president said, stop this, you got to stop Musk from doing this, what options would you have to try to stop Musk from doing this again?
I don't think you can stop Elon Musk because he owns this incredibly powerful platform that communicates with millions and billions of people every day. I think they've created somebody that they can't control. And he is the richest man in the world, so he has independence. I think they're sort of stuck because they elevated him. I do always want to go back, Mark, and remind everybody, I'm sorry, but the last time we balanced the budget, the last time we were fiscally responsible, Bill Clinton was president. And it was done in a bipartisan deal with Newt Gingrich in the late 1990s. And we did it by adjusting taxes, by adjusting entitlements, and having economic growth. And if Donald Trump and the Republican Party still believed in fiscal discipline, they would try and do a bipartisan deal with Democrats to figure out how do you deal with this deficit.
Steve, thank you for that. I totally agree. And although I don't read the chat, occasionally I glance at it. You people in the chat who's giving Newt Gingrich 100% of the credit, you are on drugs. I say that with peace, love, and understanding in my heart. Bill Clinton's policies, political savvy, and determination played the biggest role in balancing the budget. Newt was an essential partner. But if you all think that Bill Clinton had nothing to do with balancing the budget, you are not students of history, as Speaker Gingrich is. Alex, same question to you. If you were Donald Trump's chief of staff or senior advisor and he said, you got to stop Elon, what would you do?
I would be as senior advisor, I would turn to Donald Trump and say, you need to earn $1 trillion and become the richest man in the world. Because Steve's right, he can't do it. But look, who is surprised by this? Donald Trump is a Republican on taxes and a Democrat on spending. He's built his business success on borrowed money. Um, this shouldn't be a big shock to anyone. And I don't think it's going to have any kind of political impact in that sense. Musk's criticism of this right now, as far as Musk, I think it matters to the Republican coalition going forward, though. You know, we're talking about two old political parties, two 70-year-old leaders and more. And Republicans, until we can get this next generation forward, the JD Vances, until they move up to the top, it hurts when you lose that kind of visible new generation symbol.
So none of you guys don't know Elon Musk, right? You guys
Nope.
don't know him, right?
I've contributed to his success, but that's it.
Okay.
Literally.
I usually say about Elon Musk, predicting or analyzing his behavior is 2 notches harder than doing the same 2 things about Kim Jong-un. Like he's a very very difficult guy. But what's your guess, Alex? First, is he speaking out because he's got a principled opposition to the bill? Is it because he's angry about how he's treated? Like what would justify paying back a president of the United States who elevated you to this position that you seem to love so much with undermining his main domestic goal? What would motivate that for somebody?
He believes it.
Yeah.
He believes, I mean, this is what Doge was all about. He can't get to Mars in time. He's got to save this planet, the one we're on. And I think he actually believes it. And by the way, most Republicans, not just some, but most actually do believe that we've got to control spending. But as Mitch McConnell once said, nobody ever got defeated by spending too much money. And that's the difference between outsiders who oppose that and Republican insiders who support that. And Elon Musk is an outsider who found he can't stay. He's like Shane at the end of the movie. He's got to leave.
All right, Steve, I want to make some mischief with you. Some of your clients are big corporate CEOs, right?
Yes.
Yes. So let's say Musk said, I saw you on Two Way tonight, and you seem like a bright young man and very much aligned with me. I want to hire you, and I'll do whatever you say to help me kill this bill. I'll spend whatever I need to spend. I'll go on whatever shows. I'll do whatever. Help me, Steve, kill this bill. What advice would you give Musk to kill the reconciliation bill?
Well, I don't think he can kill the reconciliation bill because I don't think he's in charge of the Republican Party. I think he's an important voice.
Okay, but Steve, your client, just to be clear, he's going to give you 10% of the TV buy. So just you say, Mr. Musk, I'll take your $50,000 Burisma retainer. I'm warning you, I don't think you can kill it. And he says, Steve, I want to try.
I think if you wanted to kill this bill, you would have to spend some real money, and Alex knows how to do it, in districts of Republicans who are potential voters and highlight the problems with the bill.
But would you try to kill it in the Senate, or you could just try to kill it in the House?
Well, I think now you're in the Senate and you have some very important senators in states that are going to take very big hits on Medicaid, in states that are going to take very big hits on SNAP funding, in states that have spent a lot of money on IRA industries that are going to get hit. And I'd spend money and try and point out to them that this is going to be a problem for the people in your state.
Okay, let me ask you a mechanical question. Alex may win too. He says, okay, Steve, I want to do it. I want to put lots of TV ads on this in the states with Republicans we might be able to persuade. How quickly can we get them on? And what would the budget be, given that we don't know exactly when the Senate's voting? Could you get ads on in 2 days?
I would say you can get ads. Mr. Big Contributor, we're going to need $50 million to get ads on in 2 days, but they won't work. So why don't you save $25 million and just give $25 million to me?
What would you spend on besides TV ads if Elon Musk said, I want to kill
Oh God, the world has changed. Now now it's about influencing influencers. So now you get out there to content creators and you create content, but you help them create content and then you amplify it. So you're now trying, it's pointillism. You're now trying to piece together a big painting that says, you know, the reasons you shouldn't support this bill. That's more expensive than TV.
Yeah.
And you still have to do TV. Nobody
Yeah.
has more data than Amazon, and they
Yeah.
run TV ads.
The correct answer is, Mr. Musk, you should go on two-way tonight and speak to the people. The earned media, the earned
But he
media off
won't
of that
do
would be
that.
huge.
That wasn't your question to the
Yeah.
CEO.
All right.
He
Now,
won't do that.
he'll do whatever you
because that's
advise.
disloyal.
Yeah, you wouldn't
I don't
recommend it
think he'll
because
do it.
you wouldn't recommend that because you don't get a percentage of the buy if he comes on two-way
Obviously
tonight.
true.
All right. One more topic, and then we're going to get to your questions, and then we're going to talk to David Mamet. As I said, number 8, please. The Boulder family of the man who was arrested and charged with the crime over the weekend, taken into custody by ICE for expedited removal. Maybe no surprise there. And here is Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, number 9, talking about the investigation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Today, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE are taking the family of suspected Boulder, Colorado terrorist and illegal alien Mohammed Solomon into ICE custody. Now, Mohammed's despicable actions will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But we're also investigating to what extent his family knew about this horrific attack, if they had any knowledge of it, or if they provided support to it. I am continuing to pray for the victims of this attack and for all of their families. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to all of them, and I want them to know that justice will be served.
Steve, your thoughts on this latest development, but also just the case in general.
Well, obviously, we should prosecute the guy who did it to the fullest extent of the law. And to the extent his family was aware, they should be investigated. But what concerns me about all this, and I'm not in any way defending this, it's terrible. But there's a lot of bad people in this country who've done a lot of terrible things that their families didn't know about and that their families were not participants in. And I am concerned because I don't think the Secretary of Homeland Security has a lot of credibility that they're just, going and arresting people without investigations and due process and figuring out if they, in fact, actually had something to do with it. Again, if they did have something to do with it, they should be prosecuted. But I think we should have an investigation first, and we should have some transparency from what is supposed to be the most transparent administration ever, telling us exactly what evidence they have that they are going after the family of someone who did a very terrible thing.
Alex.
I think, well, Secretary Noem said she was going to investigate it. That was the point. The Islamic community is very clannish. They concentrate themselves in certain areas. They're very tight-knit, so it'd be worth investigating. But I think this is the beginning of a bigger issue that could be determinative in 26 and 28. Immigration, not that big an issue anymore. Trump drove that nail into the wood. Why do we need the Trump hammer? But Islam, what do we do in a country that believes in freedom of religion? But what do we do when we confront a religion that is also a form of government, that is antithetical and has very radical elements? That's a big, do we become Europe? Do we just waltz our way into becoming what London and England are today? We're not having that discussion. If you're looking for issues where Trump has yet to succeed and has yet to establish policy, I think that's going to be a growing concern.
Thank you for that. Paul, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Steve and Alex.
Hi, good evening, guys. Good evening, Mark.
Hi.
I'm in Bradenton, Florida, originally from Massachusetts. Just to give you a very brief thumbnail, did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016, did not. Turned around after watching his approach after 4 years, not only voted for him, but stood out and supported him with signs, and again in 24. So I'm not someone just has supported him since day one. I'm curious what all of your thoughts are regarding the Islamic community's response or lack thereof in distancing themselves and trying to isolate the people that are doing these dastardly deeds and horrible acts against anyone, and certainly the Jewish community, to try to demonstrate that they are not guilty by association, that they truly think these are horrible acts. What are your thoughts on that, and what kind of pressure they're under not to do that?
Steve.
I don't know that they're under any pressure not to do that. Again, I don't want to talk about something I don't know anything about. I haven't read anything. I've read all about the attack. I haven't read anything about the community's response.
By the way, I'm not talking specifically about that attack. I'm talking about in general the response over the last few years, not this attack specifically, but the separating and isolating of the people who are the extremists from the general Islamic community, so that you have this differentiation and you're not lumping people together. And one of the ways to demonstrate that to me is call out the bad actors.
Alex.
Ordinarily, you would, except I'm not so sure that the radical nature of Islam isn't just fundamental to Islam. There are exceptional adherents of the faith who don't embrace its radical nature. And I think that's wonderful. But in Islam, there has not been the separation of church and state that there is in Western faiths. And so, and that faith is radical. It wants to extinguish unbelievers. So what is it they're going to separate themselves from if they actually conform to the tenets of their faith? I think this tells us a lot about Islam. It's different. It's not just another religion. And I think we're going to need to have a big, serious discussion about that as we go forward. And that community grows. The Islamic community is growing tremendously in America. The Jewish community is not. And the Islamic community is now, behind Protestantism, the second most popular religion in about 16 states.
Paul, thank you.
Sorry,
go ahead. Unmute. I apologize. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Mark, how much both my wife Patty and I have enjoyed your programming. Really respect it, and I'm trying to spread the word to people that say, I don't care where you are on the spectrum of political views, that it's a way to hear an intelligent, responsible, mature dialogue. So I really thank you for your efforts.
All right, I'll take everything but mature. No, thank you. Very, very grateful to you for that, and to your wife, and appreciate you spreading the word as we ask folks to do as we continue to grow. But very grateful to you. Thank you for coming on. All right, Aaron, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Alex and for Steve.
No, thank you, Mark. Once again, great show. I actually have a question about a personality candidate on the Democratic side that doesn't seem to get much airtime, and I'm wondering what your opinions are. Someone like a Michelle Obama that could generate billions in free media, earned media, and would clearly be a shock to the system, very similar to how Trump was a shock to the system in 2016. And especially as Trump would be coming off his second term, he would have to be leveraging his media to support Vance against Michelle, and it starts to become some interesting 3D chess there.
Are you asking about Michelle Obama running for president?
Yeah, running for president.
She never will run for any elective office. She never will run for any elective office.
I wish she would, but she is done.
Yeah, she
will
never.
Does not like politics. She doesn't like this business. She doesn't want to be in it.
Yeah, it'll never happen. And so I cut you off because it's a moot point. She will never run. But thank you for asking.
Sure.
Thank you, Aaron. All right. Now joining us, I'm gonna say a couple things. I'm gonna try not to throat clear for the entire half an hour, but I could. Two things. One is there are those who believe that people from Chicago are the smartest and most creative people in the country. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but this book suggests it just might be true. This book is incredible, and I'll say a couple things about it. Disenlightenment, Politics, Horror, and Entertainment, which is it's learned, it's funny, it's provocative, it's compelling. It's a series of short essays, and if you're a writer or a communicator of any sort, the amount of craft embedded in this. If you want to learn how to write and communicate and tell stories, this is like a how-to book. But like it's a how-to book from the heavens. It's an incredible book. And again, you'll hear hosts gush about books sometimes, and it's not real. I'm genuinely telling you, you should all buy this book. Regardless of what you think of Donald Trump or the age in which we live, you will learn so much from this book, including and this is the first thing I want to take up with David Mamet, he has stolen, without attribution, credit, or compensation, many of my grandfather's jokes. And so that's the first point we're going to have to adjudicate. Shouldn't you be there are footnotes in this book? Shouldn't you be citing my grandfather for telling his jokes?
Well, wait a second. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, fantastic. No, I heard these jokes from my dad, and who was born in 1924. So these are old jokes. They're all old jokes. And I tell them to my son Noah, and he improves them for me. Do you want to hear his improvements?
I do. And just to say, welcome and congratulations on the book. And welcome
thank
in.
you so much.
But let's
Thank you very much
tell us the joke and then the improvement, please.
Okay, this is from my dad to me, to my son Noah. I say, Noah, there's two guys. One guy says, the invisible man is here. The other guy says, tell him I can't see him. So Noah says, that's okay. I said, that's my dad joke. It's a good joke. Noah says, I'm going to make it better. Okay. He says, okay, one guy says, the invisible man is here. The other guy says, tell him to go fuck himself. That is better.
Yeah, it's the cadence of it's better, that alone. What's the thing you've written before this that's most like this?
Well, I wrote two other books, which were more or less compilations of essays. I hope each of them into some cohesive whole. One of them is called The Secret Knowledge, and the second one was called Recessional. And that's about 20 years worth of essays in 3 different tranches. So that's what they are.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to explain the book because it's a series of essays, and it's brilliantly, if I may use the president's phrase about his own communications, the weave is phenomenal. And you can read the individual essays, and then there's references back. It's an extraordinary work of craft, as I said. What do you hope to get out of this book besides making money off the sales? Like, what is it, the thing you wanted to communicate with the book?
Well, the book, thank you for saying that about the totality of the book, because a talent is, I'm pleased with talent, but I'm proud of whatever craftsmanship I have. That the book is an attempt to reason my way through a period of abject horror of the Biden insurgency, and to say, okay, I have 2 choices here. I could undergo cognitive dissonance and say nothing makes any sense anymore. I'm scared out of my mind, so I'm going to find some villain, which is what anti-Semitism is, by the way. Or I'm going to say, okay, however, whatever a Gordian knot I'm looking at is, there is a way into it to try to understand what I'm looking at. And I did a movie with Gene Hackman once. There's a very good line that I like. The guy says to Gene, he's a mechanic. He says, Gene, you're pretty smart. How'd you figure this out? Gene says, I'm not that smart. The guy says, how'd you figure it out? Gene says, well, I just try to imagine a guy smarter than myself and say, what would he do?
Right.
So that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to do in the book. I try to imagine a guy smarter than myself and say, what would he do?
All right. I'm going to ask you a few more questions. Then I'm going to turn you over to Alex and Steve, both of whom are fans of yours. And then questions from the community. As always, there'll be questions imbued with the spirit of peace, love, and understanding. And if they're not, you'll just slap them back because you're from Chicago. Very good. Here's the first question. I'm giving it to you as a binary, and if you want to reject it as a binary choice, you can. But is Donald Trump's 2 presidential victories more based on a reaction to Obama and Biden, or more based on positive feelings about Trump?
Well, he was elected by a bunch of American citizens, myself among them, who didn't like what was happening to the country. Part of what we didn't like what was happening to the country was the wreck that had been made of our country and of our political system by the Obama Biden coalition. A, and B, people liked him. And more importantly, he did what he said he was going to do, and he did it as a builder. He did it as in show business, and people said okay. And he was brave. You know, we thought he was brave when he went into the black community and said, "What do you got to lose?" Right? And we knew he was brave when he got shot in the head and he stood up and he said, "Fight, fight, fight." Right? So that was a guy that a lot of people said, you know, I like to be on this guy's side. Indeed, perhaps I wish I were more like him.
Do you agree he lost in 2020?
No, I think the election was stolen in 2020, whether it was stolen through voter fraud, which it probably was to a certain extent. Listen, that's what the Democrats have done forever. As JFK said, my dad paid for an election, he didn't pay for a landslide. And it was certainly stolen through a suppression of information on the part of the government and their tools in the media. In fact, Zuckerberg said that himself. He said the FBI pressured him not to release information about the laptop. But so what? As it says in Balaam in the Torah, this guy intended it for ill, and God intended it for good. So had he been reelected in 2020, the country, I think, would be in a lot worse shape than it is now.
I'm going to let Steve follow up if he chooses to on 2020, and I'm going to move on. Explain to people who the wise men of Helm are and why they're important.
Well, the wise men of Helm, my grandparents all come from Eastern Europe. On my mother's side, they came from Warsaw, but on my father's side, they came from the borderline of the Ukraine, from a little city. Hrubichev was a big town, a small city, very close to the city of Helm. And Helm was also renowned in Yiddish folklore as the place where all the stupid people came from. So I grew up with Helm jokes.
Yeah. All right. What you tell your favorite Helm joke, then I'll tell mine.
I think my favorite Helm joke is, I got a million of them, as I'm sure you do too. And it's about the two shamases. The shamus is a sextant. He's the guy who lights the fire in the synagogue in the morning and cleans up. He says, shamus is the sextant, a lot of shamus jokes. And so there's the shamus of Minsk and the shamus of Pinsk. So it's a question of who's smarter. So the shamus of Pinsk goes to Minsk. And the shamus of Minsk goes, I got a riddle for you. I'm the child of my parents, but I am not my brother, and I'm not my sister. Who am I? Shamus from Pinsk goes, I don't know who I am. Shamus from Minsk goes, I'm me. So the Shamus from Pinsk goes, no, that's genius. This is something I can use. He goes home and he tells to his people in Pinsk. He says, okay, I got one for you. I'm the child of my parents, but I'm not my brother, and I'm not my sister. Who am I? They say, I don't know. He says, the Shamus from Minsk.
All right, here's mine. Mine's quick. I'll do a quick version. There's a winding road that leads to Helm, and there are a lot of accidents there. So they put up a sign that says dangerous curve ahead. And then they have a meeting after a year and they vote to take the sign down because there haven't been any accidents up there in quite some time.
That's good. I haven't heard that one.
Really, that's my favorite.
Oh,
all right. Last question for me is how do you think someone who loves Joe Biden would feel about your book?
Well, who loves Joe Biden? I mean, someone does, I'm sure. An interesting thing, listen, here's to me a perfect example of Americanism. Here's a guy who's all of his life, he's been a bagman for and he's part of a crime family. What are his participations in the crime family? We may find out and we may not find out. Nonetheless, he's that old style Democratic politician, A. B, he gets into office and he's senile and he can't serve. And the people around him say, just show up every once in a while and nod because we're going to be running the auto pen. We're in a terrible, terrible situation, both domestically and around the world. The country is right on the brink of collapse. Joe Biden gets out because he's kicked out by his own party in contravention to their rules, because they think he can't win. And then it turns out that this guy, who both as a tool of and as a participant of effectively an insurrection, has cancer. And we all feel sorry for him, as we should. Because at the end of the day, whether it's Joe Biden out of office or you and me taking our last breath, we're just human beings. And all of that rancor, certainly I felt a lot of it, on the right and on the left. It's all gone. Because we say, you know what? He's a human being. He did a lot of bad things, just like me. And maybe he did a couple good things, maybe just like me. And he's mortal. And that's that. And I thought that was a striking example of mediator of healing.
All right, hold on one
Did you go
second.
away? Or you stopped? Hello?
David, we're losing your signal a little bit.
Oh,
Try-
yeah. I wonder why.
All right.
Should I go someplace else?
No, you're good. You're good. I think we got you back. All right, now,
Go someplace else.
if you're here in the community, you want to get a question
Oh.
into to David Mamet, please raise your hand. All right, we're going to wait for David to come back. Steve, I'm going to let you, when David comes back, I'm going to have you go first, assuming you're ready.
I would rather focus on his art, not on his political views.
You focus on whatever you want. We'll see when he comes back. I will tell you again, the book is it's just filled with really interesting things. President Trump put on Truth Social recently, recommended the book, and the blurbs are from three of Steve's closest friends, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, and Megyn Kelly. So, David, I'm going to turn you over to Steve Shapiro. He said, while you were off briefly, he said you remind him of a tough version of Rahm Emanuel. That's what he said. Steve.
David, I completely disagree with you politically. I'd much rather talk about your art and what you think of the latest production of Glenn Ross on Broadway, which I haven't decided whether to go see yet.
Oh,
all right. David, try again. We're having trouble hearing you. No. We cannot hear you. Lori, I'm gonna ask you if you can intervene.
Yeah, I'm going
to try to fix this. David, you can hear us, I bet, but we can't hear you. Try one more time. No, we cannot hear David. All right. Let's see. Steve, talk about Glenn Ross.
One of the things Mr. Mamet writes
Yeah.
is that in his famous memo to the writers of the unit is that every scene ends in failure, and that's what compels you to the next scene. Apparently, he's doing that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, you've given such a glowing review of the book. I got to read the book.
Yeah, you do want to read.
I generally avoid reading any books on current affairs. I try and go back further in the history and read books about.
There's a lot of history in here, and we'll just keep asking David questions he can't answer because we can't hear him. I'm curious whether you had to do research for this book because it is so learned. There's so much history and cultural references in here, and I'm just wondering whether you had to do research or you had all this in your head. Try again, see if we can hear you. We still can't hear you, Alex.
How about this? I mean, this would be a good chance for me to slobber over.
Yeah, tell David. No, you should tell David how important one of his works is to you and why it's so important to you.
Several. There he is. He's back. I've been prescribed from telling you, Mr. Mamet, that everyone who comes to Purple, I make them read The Three Uses of the Knife to learn about storytelling and your famous point in there that what the political hack and the dramatist have in common is the ability to state the problem. And I also have to thank you for Instincts of the Herd and Peace and War, which I learned about in one of your books, and why an American serviceman will jump on a grenade for his buddies to extinguishing himself, but for the preservation of the herd, for the tribe, of the society, to belong to something larger than himself. You've been very instructive. And I've just cracked your new book, and you talk about an open city, a city without a center, a Democratic Party that believes in nothing, and almost random roguish bands of marauders. Can we pull back? In your opinion, is there a path back? And if so, what's the big narrative? What is the story we tell ourselves that says, there's a great purpose for you, the American people?
So, David, two questions, but we still can't hear you. Damn.
Oh, damn it.
No. All right. Let's see. No, I'll look to you for advice because we can't hear him. David, you might.
By the way, I will commend this while we're waiting. Then go online, look up right now David Mamet's memo to the writers of the unit. If you want to learn how to write dramatically, and some of us pretend to try, read that. You'll laugh your ass off. Or read Bambi and Godzilla versus Godzilla. It's great stuff.
I write for a living, and I don't like to write. I align myself with the person who said I don't like writing. I like having written. But reading this inspired me, gave me so many ideas of things to not specifics to steal, like you stole my grandfather's jokes, but just craft stuff about sentence structure and about narrative and building. David, here's my suggestion. Do you have another device? If you're on your phone, do you have a computer or vice versa? You can try another device because for some reason we can't hear you. All right, let's line up.
Just log out. If you could just log out or close out and then rejoin.
All right, we're going to try that.
That might work.
All right, there he goes. Let's line up some questions. How about that? Good use of time. Because for a while he was here, right? Not my figment of our imagination. Craig, I'll bring you in.
Hi, I've been on 2A before. I'm a AP European history teacher in Naples, Florida, and I'm writing something on my Substack about where Donald Trump ranks in history among democratic comebacks and global democracies. And I have this ranking here, and I'm curious what you guys think as students of history of where I put him. I put him number 7. I have Charles de Gaulle, France, Indira Gandhi of India, Richard Nixon of the US, Winston Churchill, Shinzo Abe, George Clemenceau, Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, Lula da Silva, and Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia. Where would you put Trump historically in like the grand scale of the past century of global democracy?
I'd move him up 4. David, we still cannot hear you.
Are you talking about where would we put him in terms of his comeback?
The degree of difficulty of the comeback,
difficulty,
right?
And I guess the impact that it has on global history, on the rest of the world.
Read your ones before Trump again.
Before Trump, below Trump, or above Trump?
Bigger than Trump.
Charles de Gaulle, number 1.
Yeah, that's
Gandhi,
good. Richard
Nixon, Winston Churchill, Shinzo Abe, and George Clemenceau, France.
I don't know if about Clemenceau, but I'd move Trump ahead of all but the first 3. I'd move him 4.
But you think Nixon is above Trump?
Yeah.
And why do you think that's the case?
He was deader.
Yeah.
He was deader. Trump was really not dead. I mean, he was deemed dead, but he really wasn't dead. Steve.
I think I'd put Trump near the top of that list. I think I think I'm not for him, and I don't think he's been a great leader, but I think his comeback is pretty amazing in the face of all of the people who buried him. And I think his long-term impact on history, which I think is primarily going to be negative, though, is quite large. So I'd put him above Nixon. I mean, Nixon at the end of the day, fell. I mean, he came back, but then he fell spectacularly. So I don't know. I'd put Trump probably number 2 on that list.
All right, David, try again.
Okay, is this one?
Well, you sound a little like Donald Duck, but we can hear you. Anything you? Well, let's start with the first question. When you went mute, Glenn Ross on Broadway, the new edition. Have you seen it? Do you recommend it? No, you're gone again.
Closer to the mic. Would that help?
All right, David. Unfortunately, I'm hoping we can have you back or we can fix it. But as of now, we still can't hear you. We heard you briefly. Alex, while David fiddles with his devices, maybe, what's your answer to Trump in the comeback where he ranks? It's a great list, by the way.
I think he should be up at the top because the world in which he came back is more fragmented. And people believe in less in the world today. We still had credible institutions and nation, the idea of nationhood, and we were a planet of believers, I think, for example, in Churchill's case. So I think in a fragmented world where, well, the open city, if you'll read David Mamet's new book, where there's very little that holds us together, I think for an individual to weave his way back through that is impossibly hard.
Thank you. Great question, and appreciate it. All right, I'm trying to be creative here. David, do you know how to type into the chat? Do you know how to do that in Zoom? We can't hear you.
How if we got a rematch?
get a return appearance. All right. Noah, I'm looking for a
Yes.
recommendation. We could end the episode and try to rebook him. We could keep going.
Yeah. Let's do a why don't we do a rebook, but continue the conversation.
All right, David,
the-
David, you think we can get you back with some better technology? Is that possible? Because we can't hear you still, unfortunately. We're grateful to you for coming on.
Yeah.
I'll recommend the book again. You're welcome to stay and
Yeah.
listen. Again, I'm telling you, folks, regardless of what you think about anything, you want to read the book. It is a delightful, well-written, well-crafted romp through everything, but not in a way that feels excessive or scattered. It's a beautiful piece of linear chaos that gives you a unified theory of almost everything. And again, I mostly buy books for the jokes. The jokes are fantastic. All right, Craig, come on in. You can speak about David Mamet, but he can't speak back. Or you can ask Alex and Steve a question as we finish up here. Go ahead.
I purchased the book today after you recommended it this morning, primarily because I've heard Alex's recommendation of The Three Uses of the Knife, which I then read and liked as well. So I've heard it from someone else before, but Alex sold the book to me.
All right, so we're moving Mamet merchandise here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you are definitely, Mark.
Great.
So the book is good. I got maybe six chapters into it by now, so it's pretty good. I like it, and I do agree with you that it helps explain why people are a part of the Trump phenomena, if you can call it a phenomena.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember now. I wanted to say I wasn't expecting you to get to me so quickly, Mark. Oh, I wanted to say first of all, this is the first time I've seen a technical difficulty on two-way, and I watch a lot of two-way.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. We're very blessed.
I agree with that. Oh, and I can't remember what else I want to say. And I don't want to take it to my time, but I did want to say that about David. Oh, actually, you know what? Hearing David talk even for 15 seconds, however much he was able to talk, explains a lot about his book now that I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I'm reading the audiobook, and I wish I had him reading it to me because it's written very much like he speaks. I'll say.
It's in his voice. Craig, thank you. Very grateful to you. Thanks for coming
Thanks,
on.
Mark. Be well.
For being part of the two-way community. All right, Mike, welcome in. Under unusual circumstances, remind folks where you're from and ask or answer or say what you wish.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Mike Bowman. I'm from Texas.
Yes, sir.
I thought we might kind of cover a little bit of Mr. Mamet's thinking, and thought maybe Alex sounds like he's got some familiarity with it. I think I read a summary in preparation for buying the book. He talks about manipulation of language and distorting of reality, and one of the things we end up with is a loss of personal responsibility through narratives. And I thought maybe Alex would kind of help me connect those dots to understand what Mr. Mamet is talking about.
Alex.
Help me with that. I was putting in the chat, I was putting a link to his memo to the writers of the unit, which if you want to learn about writing, dramatic writing, you should read, but I put that in there. Tell me again.
Yeah, a summary that I read talks about the manipulation of language.
Yes.
Which ends up, being done by the previous administrations, landing us in a situation where there are narratives created, and finally where there's a loss of personal responsibility, which personal responsibility just seems like a basic unit of how the nation has to function. I thought you might be able to connect the dots of what Mr. Mamet is talking about with that sort of.
All right. Before we have Alex do it, as Woody Allen says, I happen to have Marshall McLuhan right here. Let's try again, David.
Oh yeah. Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yay.
You see what I'm saying? Okay.
Did you hear Mike's question, or does he need to repeat it?
I heard the end of it. That sounds very interesting. But can we hear it again?
You talk about the manipulation of language, which results in narratives where we land, where there's less personal responsibility. That seems like a very important concept. I got that based on a summary of the book in preparation for buying it. Would you be able to kind of connect those dots a little bit?
I'm saying a little bit, I almost understand what you're saying, so say it a little bit simpler, if you would, please. I beg your pardon.
Well, there's a manipulation of language that you talk about. Is that correct?
Well, there's
In
always
your
a
work?
manipulation. There's always a manipulation of language. Here's the reason people can't write drama, is people think that we speak to express ourselves, right? So characters in bad drama are written to express themselves, to express what they feel so that they stand for different ideas of the writer. But in effect, people do not speak to express themselves, but to get something from someone else. So that all language is an attempt to, you could say it, you could put it down and you could say it's an attempt to manipulate, but it's an attempt to accomplish something, right? So the idea that someone is going to speak to no purpose is false. So even when it seems like they're speaking to no purpose, they have a conscious or unconscious purpose. It might be to distract us. It might be to promote themselves. It might be to stop the other person from speaking. Even boards that go on forever and ever and ever are speaking to a purpose. So all language is used, I think, but certainly in drama, used to obtain a result from the person to whom you're speaking. So is that manipulation? Well, that's an attempt to obtain a result.
Mike, thank you. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, the type of manipulation I think that the summary that somebody wrote of your book was that you end up with narratives from Biden, Obama, that regime, where we have a reduction in personal responsibility.
Of whom?
I guess the American people. Or maybe somebody wrote this and they did not know what they were talking about with their work.
Well, listen, everybody's got an opinion, right? They're like cowboy hats. Everybody's got one, and most of them, like the cowboy hat, should probably stay in the closet. So I stopped a long time ago reading my work because the good stuff was never good enough and the bad stuff was devastating, right? So what I'm trying to do with my work is tell the truth the best way that I know how. And one of the things that I try to be very, very careful about, one of the most important things, is not to manipulate the audience by saying, for example, if you don't like this, you're a fool, or that if you voted for blah, blah, you're a Nazi, or because when you do that in the theater, when you do that in the theater, you're misusing your prerogative because the audience suspends the disbelief in order to hear a story. So if you say yes, but as you know, all people are good are people too, except the Jews, except the blacks, except the gays, except men, except women, whoever, except you are taking advantage of this of the fact that they parked their reason for a second in order to have a good time. So I try to be very careful in my not to manipulate others. Drama, curiously, is about two people very, very hard to manipulate each other. That's enough for me.
Mike, thank you. David, can you tell us what you think of the new production of Glengarry Glen Ross?
Yeah, I liked it very much. Did you see it? You told me you didn't see it.
No, Steve hasn't seen
No.
it. Steve loves theater, but he's extremely cheap, so he only likes to pay for good theater. But you're saying this is worth his money?
Oh, well, I think so. And certainly I got a thing you can do in the meantime, which I just did a movie with Shia LaBeouf that just came out called Henry Johnson. And he can see it, I think, for $10 on henryjohnsonmovie.com. And it's based on a play which I did last year, a brand new play. And I think Steve might enjoy it.
I'm going to pay to go see Glengarry Glen Ross, so that's good.
All right, Steve, check with
Oh,
me.
good.
I'll get you some house seats at cost.
Okay.
All right, there are two variables now, David. One, it's almost 6 in Peoria, so that would be the time we booked for you. And I wonder if you can stay a little longer. But also, your audio is still not the best we've ever had. So your choice: stay a little longer, come back another time. We'll sell more books. Up to you. Whatever you'd like to do.
No, I'll stay a little bit. You're in Peoria?
No, I'm not in Peoria. I'm just making a central time joke.
Oh, okay.
You know, like if it plays in Peoria.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring more folks in. Again, if you've got a question for David Mamet and his spotty audio, please raise your hand. Aaron, welcome back. Question for David Mamet.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. My favorite work that you've ever done is Homicide. I love that movie. I've watched it every few years when I can. I'm wondering just if you can maybe share something with us about, maybe your process or your feelings or opinion about that. I know I'm sort of reaching back, but I always like asking people, when they've done prior work, what they thought of then and what they think of now of that work. And once again, really appreciate all the fantastic work and look forward to reading your book.
Thank you very much. Homicide was somebody gave me a book. My producer at that time was Mike Hausman, and he bought this book about New York cops. And I was spending a lot of time at that time in New York with my cousin Eddie, who'd been a cop in NYPD for 40 years, and hanging out with Eddie. And so I was working on this movie about New York cop, and more, it became a movie about a Jewish New York cop, like my cousin Eddie. And so I said, this is the movie I want to do. So we settled up with the other guy, and it was about a Jewish cop. And after the movie came out, Joey Montana played the cop, and Billy Macy played his partner. And I noticed a guy, and I was living in Boston at the time, an older guy, and he's wearing a raid jacket that says the Shomrim Society. The Shomrim Society is a society of Jewish cops. Shomer means the guardian, Shomrim, guardians. So I said, I see that you're a retired law enforcement. He says, yeah. I said, did you see that movie Homicide? I said, asked him because obviously he was a Jew. He said, yeah. I said, what do you think? He said, it was really great, but did they have to say it? Because it was about what my cousin Eddie told me was his day. The Jewish cop always had to be the first guy in the door.
Brilliant. Aaron, thank you. Grateful to you.
you.
All right. Michael, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Mr. Mamet.
Yes. Thank you. So your characters often reveal themselves through what they're willing to sacrifice. What have you sacrificed for your art that you might now question? And thank you.
That's a very good question. I haven't sacrificed anything for my art. My art has been an incredible gift to me from the first moment I started writing. It's been an adventure and a constant challenge, and the source of a certain amount of money and great friends, great relationships. And in my father's house are many mansions, so I haven't sacrificed anything.
Thank you.
What are some or one of your unfulfilled professional ambitions?
One of my unfulfilled professional is I wanted to climb Mount Everest, but it's so fucking high.
Yeah, it's straight up.
Yeah, that's right.
Is there any art you haven't created that you'd still like to create?
Well, I'm doing a lot of cartoons. I'm the resident cartoonist for Barry Weiss's Free Press. I do a cartoon every week. And other than that, I invented this game show, but I don't seem to be able to sell it. It's a very simple idea. I think it's a very good idea. It's called I'm Thinking of a Number. So you get someone, you, for example, could do it, or I could do it. And you're there every week, and you get contestants on, and you say to them, I'm thinking of a number. And then they have to guess if you really are thinking of a number.
That's the show?
Yeah.
We could do it on two-way. Would you imagine multiple rounds an episode or just one round per episode?
I think one round would keep everybody for like forever.
Really? Can we play right now?
No, it's too late in the day. They got to get me in the morning. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Jacqueline, welcome in. After you unmute, tell folks who don't know where you are and your question for David Mamet.
Hi, I'm in San Diego, California, and I've been wondering, does writing really have deeper meaning when there's so many brilliant writers out there already writing stuff and publishing it? And also, is today's entertainment and publishing landscape, is it harder or easier to reach an audience as a writer because there's so many more opportunities, but there's so much more competition?
Well, that's a very good question. Tell me the first part again, please.
Hold on, you got to unmute. Go ahead.
I missed the
question
first.
was about whether writing has influence over people that matters, and if it's meaningful, if there are already so much brilliant work out there that people could be focusing on.
Well, I don't know.
Instead of your work, instead of my work or your work or someone else's work.
I don't know. Beats me. I think of it like baking. You know, you want to bake the best brioche you can, and if you're graced with talent and love of cooking, you're going to get a kick out of doing the best you can, and it would kind of be nice if people liked it, right? And P.S., maybe down the line you're going to make some money. As far as things changing, well, things change all the time. So the question of are there less opportunities? Are there more opportunities? And the answer is yes, there are both, right? But the same was true before Johannes Gutenberg showed up, and the same was true when radio showed up, and the same was true when television replaced radio, and then streaming replaced the studio. So it's happening all the time. So young people, just as in every age, are going to have to figure out the best way to exploit the technology, which is native to them and which is their right to do.
All right. Thank you for that, Jacqueline. Alex, go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Mamet, do you have a view on how this movie ends, the one we're all in 10 years from now? Is this a happy ending to our national story? Is it a less happy one?
Well, there is no end. There is no end.
I understand, but I mean, are you hopeful?
Well, of course I'm hopeful because, as we Jews say, Kol biyadei Hashem, everything's in God's hands. And our Muslim brothers and sisters say it was all written in the mind of Allah long ago. So here we are now. And where's it going to end depends on where you're standing. Who knows more about the battle, the general on the hill or the grunt in the foxhole? That's the same question, right? Things are going to unfold in a certain way, influenced by many, many factors, a lot of which are beyond our comprehension. And when we look back at history from a sufficient remove, we see that many factors were beyond our comprehension and were perhaps influenced, as Rebecca West said in one of her essays, all great national upheavals are caused by changes in climate. And I would add to that, all great national upheavals are caused by changes in technology. For example, the great European powers got into World War I because they had this new technology, which was automatic weapons. And they'd been using their automatic weapons, the great European powers, colonially against people who had single-shot muskets and bows and arrows. So both of them, right, whether it's Germany and England or Germany and France, said, well, we know how to fight it. We can't be beaten, right? Not recognizing that the other guy had the same technology. And so we had a 30 years war called World War I and World War II. Changes in technology and changes in climate and other things which we cannot account are shaping the destiny not only of ourselves, but of nations. And we look back at, for example, if you look back at a movie made 30 years ago, and we remember it vividly, that the catchphrases that we used and the things in which we believed and the hairstyles and the cars and the jeans and the makeup and the baba seemed the height of, were the height of fashion. But we look back now 30 years, they look absurd. So how must we think about World War I, World War II, and later future generations will look back and think the same of us.
All right,
right?
let's get, yes.
Go ahead.
Let's get a quick question in from Patty, and then Steve, if he's got another one, and then we'll end. Patty, go ahead.
On the subject of technology, do you think it's an honor to speak to you?
Thank you.
Do you think AI is going to dumb down the craft of writing, or is there any hope that it will enhance it?
Well, for the writing and television, which is in effect making sausages, AI will do a better job. Other than that, here's something. A guy came up to Stanislavski, the great theater director Stanislavski, and said, "You know, I wish that I could do better. I thought I could do better today. I thought I could do better today." I don't know, maybe someone could do better than I. And Stanislavski said, well, do you have a girlfriend? And the guy said, yes, I do. I'm engaged. I have a girlfriend. And the guy, Stanislavski said, is he better looking than you? And the guy said, well, you have a best friend. Yes. So the guy says, yes, I have a girlfriend. My best friend is better looking than I. And Stanislavski says, well, because your best friend is better looking than you are, shouldn't you tell your girlfriend to go sleep with him? Right? So I feel the same thing about AI. However good it could do, people like to write, let her write. Until AI, like how the computer takes over and says, thank you, take a shower and to go home. That's what I think.
Patty, thank you. Steve, you got one more question?
A lot of artists are getting involved and speaking out on politics, and I'm sure there are people on the left who are unhappy that you're speaking out as much. And I've heard a lot of people on the right who are unhappy that Bruce Springsteen is speaking out. What do you think the role of artists is in our political discourse? And should there be more, less? It's all great.
Well, first off, my opinion means nothing, because what's it going to affect, which is a lesson all of us know who've ever had children. And the other hand is that about 20 years ago, I found myself blacklisted and for asking some questions. I didn't realize I was a conservative. I wasn't a conservative. And all I knew about Republicans is they wore white plastic belts, they played golf, and they didn't let us choose into their country club. But I was asking some questions in some dramatic writing that I was doing, and the New York Times and the Village Voice and NPR and PBS and Washington Post and Atlantic and the New Yorker decided that I was then I'd become a former person. So I said, well, hold on a second. I got to figure out what's going on here. So I started reasoning my way into some understanding of the political process. Because I'd always been involved with people in a very different way, which is I was going to write the plays and put them on for an audience. All the audiences I ever worked with were much smarter than I. Collectively, I had the greatest respect for them, and they had some respect for me, and I talked to them that way. I never got involved in politics. I never thought twice about it until I got whacked in the face with a frozen salmon. So I said, okay, I better figure out what's going on here. Then time went by, and I looked around and I said, wait a second, there's nobody here but me. I've been writing professionally for 50 some years. The great beneficiary of the interest and perhaps the patience of the American public, which wasn't bifurcated into left and right, because you don't ask a person's political opinion when they come into the theater. I said, and there's nobody here with me. You know what? I hate to say it, but I guess I'm an elder. That being the case, it seemed to me that I had a certain responsibility. Maybe I'm overblowing this. I don't know. I had a certain responsibility to talk about some huge changes and some huge abuses. Because there wasn't, listen, you get to be up in the late 70s and all the people who've been your advisors and your parents and your doctors and your lawyers and they're all gone. They're gone. So you say, wait a second, I guess I must be a grown-up now, because if not now, when? So that's the position in which I found myself. That's the answer.
All right. David Mamet's new book is so well written. And again, if you just care about great writing, that'd be reason enough to buy it. But it's interesting, provocative, timely, funny, and learned. And I mean, I've read a lot of books. I've never read a book quite like this. And I recommend it to you, regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of whether you even know who David Mamet is. How about that? I recommend this book to you. It is so well done. It's so well crafted, and really, really compelling. And as I said, I buy books for the jokes. So thank you for that. Grateful to have you on. If you ever want to come back and sell something else or come back and talk more about the book with a better connection, we'd welcome you back.
I appreciate it. And also thank you to all your participants. It's a pleasure talking to you all.
Great. Have a good evening. Thanks to Alex and Steve as well. Turn right now the Moynihan Report. You missed the first 15 minutes, but you can rewind on YouTube. And Michael's already up and running. You watch it on demand. tomorrow morning meeting at 9 a.m. And my new episode of Next Up, Indiana Senator Jim Banks, David Ignatius, The Washington Post, and my monologue on how my colleagues in the media are yet again screwing things up is available right now on YouTube on Next Up, as well as a podcast. And this program will be on in less than 24 hours. So we'll see you then. Stephen and Alex, thank you again. Have a great evening, everybody.
Take care.